Hello there. I'm the real-life fake wizard. After 7 years, Star Wars returns to movie theaters with The Mandalorian and Grogu, and Disney has bet the franchise's theatrical future on it. This film, while being the safest, empty, low-stakes product, turned out to be yet another polarizing entry in a galaxy far, far away. It opened to $12 million in Thursday previews, the lowest preview night figure in Star Wars franchise history. Friday brought $33 million, which is below Solo, A Star Wars Story's $35.4 million back in 2018. By Sunday, the 3-day domestic total landed at $82 million, with a projected 4-day holiday weekend of $102 million and a global debut of $165 million. This movie is on track to perform evenly with Solo's unadjusted 4-day total of $103 million. Adjusted for inflation, that's approximately $111.7 million in today's dollars. Solo was and still is considered such a disaster that Disney stopped putting Star Wars in theaters for nearly a decade. In Bob Iger's book, A Ride of the Lifetime, he detailed that the initial reason they bought Lucasfilm was to release a Star Wars movie in theaters every other year, and clearly things haven't played out that way. Mango and Grok need somewhere between 500 million and 600 million globally to break even. And that figure relies on a reported production budget of $165 million that is almost certainly understated. As reported originally by friend of the channel, Valiant Renegade, the $165 million budget traces back to California Film Tax Commission filings that only capture below-the-line qualified expenditures like grips, gaffers, set builders, and physical production labor. Above-the-line costs like Jon Favreau's writing, directing, and producing fees, Dave Filoni's executive producer deal, Pedro Pascal's salary, Sigourney Weaver, Kathleen Kennedy, all principal cast, stunt coordinators, fight choreographers, and much, much more are excluded by definition from that number. Favreau's deal with Disney to continue making Star Wars content was described as insane by Puck Magazine's Matt Bellany back in 2022, and it would have been renegotiated upward when Disney pivoted this project from a streaming season to a theatrical feature mid-production. The real all-in cost of Mandalorian and Grogu is higher than any headlines are truly suggesting. Tracking projects a total global run in the range of $400 million, which means this movie will be a box office flop, which means people are not seeing this movie. And there have long been discussions about how Star Wars was currently seeing an apathy phase, right? That Star Wars has lost its cultural grip and people just don't care anymore. Well, it would appear that that's not the whole truth. You, right now, are a great example of this. You click this video, and there's a good chance you, like myself, have been watching content about or discussing this Star Wars film from other creators providing coverage. That franchise fatigue or apathy phase is wrong. What is happening to Star Wars is active, and it is almost organized, and for Disney, it's hostile. The audience has entered what can only be described as a revenge phase, an unprecedented economic phenomenon in which a critical mass of former customers have weaponized their purchasing power against the brand that betrayed them. Every entertainment franchise has at least 3 different distinct customer segments. If you worked at Lucasfilm, they might describe this as kind of a market demographic. My version we discuss here is a little different than one presented in a conventional boardroom, but it gets the point across. Group 1 is the super fans, and they are the loyalists of any entertainment property. They buy anything bearing the brand name. For Star Wars in 2026, this means the Disney Plus subscribers who watched every series and the parents bringing kids under 13. These are people who still buy toys and charge thousands of dollars to their credit cards for semi-annual pilgrimages to Disney theme parks. This segment also includes the 55-plus-year-old viewers who attend out of the decades-old habit and emotional connection to the brand. Superfans are the people sitting in theaters on release weekend, and their satisfaction is always projectably high. They're not really keen on critical criticism. They can't quite think of it. Superfans will passionately tell you that they are super fans. The problem for them is they represent an ever-shrinking base. They are the floor of the market. Number 2, the most important demographic in all of entertainment are the normies, the casual middle, the largest segment by volume, the emotionally unattached. They have zero emotional investment in lore and canon or Disney Plus continuity. That's not saying they don't know the lore or canon. It's not even saying that they don't care. They very well might. What I'm saying is they don't lose sleep over Luke Skywalker throwing away his lightsaber. They are emotionally detached from entertainment brands. Normies show up when a movie feels like an event, like something the culture demands they see. Normies made The Force Awakens a $2 billion phenomenon. They made the original trilogy into a generational monument. These people are the 18 to 55-year-old demographic, both men and women, and they are the core engine of all blockbuster economics. For Mango and Grok, they are conspicuously absent from opening weekend. Variety noted that Disney's interconnected TV universe strategy of requiring viewers to have watched at least 3 seasons of a streaming show to understand this film's context would have created a barrier that locked casual audiences out rather than invited them in. Variety is partially correct here, and it's these normies they're referring to. When the character Zeb appears on screen, you're just supposed to know this character was in 4 seasons of a children's animated TV show over a decade ago. The movie certainly doesn't tell you who he is. Normies who skipped Rebels don't know who this is, or why they should care, so they just don't. When talking about a revenge phase of economics, the normies don't fit into this phase easily. They're shrugging their shoulders. They don't really care. They're not boycotting per se. Star Wars is just no longer a cultural event to them. It is one option among countless to keep themselves entertained, and this weekend they actively chose something else. The third demographic is the legacy fans who are the betrayed. These people grew up with George Lucas's Star Wars and they carried, past tense, deep emotional investment in those characters, that mythology, and that universe. They watched Disney acquire Lucasfilm in 2012 and felt, over the course of a decade, that the new stewards systematically dismantled everything they loved. The sequel trilogy killed Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, and Leia Organa across 3 films that shared no unifying plan and no consistent creative vision between installments. When these fans objected, Lucasfilm's response was confrontation. Creators called critics man-babies on social media. Emotions are not for sharing, Star Wars theory. Rian Johnson told fans who hated The Last Jedi that their anger was evidence the film had succeeded. Kathleen Kennedy's public posture was defiance. The Gina Carano firing in 2021 amplified accusations of political bias. The Acolyte became a flashpoint for every accumulated grievance, and at every turn, the company has chosen to lecture its customers rather than listen to them. The legacy fans are the loudest voices in the discourse around this movie, and they are the ones celebrating. They are treating the box office reports the way sports fans treat a rival's playoff elimination, with satisfaction and schadenfreude. The financial failure of The Mandalorian and Grogu is the product they are consuming now. The standard media framework treats all box office declines the same way. The brand is tired, the audience has drifted, the culture has just moved on. It's apathy. People are apathetic to Star Wars and superheroes now. No, not entirely. Apathy produces a very specific cultural signature. When an audience genuinely stops caring, the people who still show up are lukewarm about it. They don't really care. They're just looking for something to do. Satisfaction scores are mediocre. Word of mouth is flat, and the product dissolves from cultural memory. We're not seeing that here. The Mandalorian and Grogu displays the opposite pattern. The superfans are cheering for it. The critical establishment didn't like it, but the superfans are going hog wild with positive reviews. Even people of the normie middle are praising this film, claiming it was a good idea. It got an A- cinema score, and yet the volume of those viewers is historically tiny. This is the worst domestic opening of the Disney era. That gap of ecstatic buyers, yet vanishingly few of them, is our fingerprint of a consumer boycott. The product itself is satisfying the superfans who engage with it and a handful of normies. The problem is that a massive portion of the historical customer base has made a deliberate, conscious decision to withhold its money. It's like an active choice, a market signal with intention behind it. In classical economics, a business that angers its customers loses them to competitors. They find another product, they shift their loyalties, and the original brand declines as a new one grows. The Star Wars situation is structurally different here, because the legacy fans have no competitor to defect to. There is only one Star Wars. So instead of switching brands, they have adopted a new form of consumer behavior: punitive non-purchase. They are spending their energy, unspoken and without a legitimate organization, on the act of watching Star Wars fail. Tracking this movie's failing box office is the cultural event. Solo's failure in 2018 taught Disney exactly one lesson: fear. The company retreated from theaters entirely, hiding on Disney Plus, where failure is invisible because subscriber metrics obscure individual show performance. For 7 years, Lucasfilm avoided the one venue where audiences can deliver an unambiguous financial verdict. When they finally returned, they chose the lowest risk vehicle imaginable. The Mandalorian was the only Disney Plus Star Wars property with broadly positive reception. Grogu was the only new character to achieve genuine mainstream cultural penetration. Pedro Pascal has become one of the biggest stars in the world. He's a household name and a recognizable face. At the time, Disney corporate thought these elements were as close to a sure thing as the franchise could muster. And then they made the safest possible film with those elements. Critics across the ideological spectrum confirmed what audiences sensed from the trailers. This movie was engineered to be aggressively inoffensive. Nearly all of the Access Media trades reported that this movie was flavors of both boring and inconsequential. Din Djarin undergoes zero character growth across the film's runtime. He begins as a bounty hunter traveling with Grogu and ends as a bounty hunter traveling with Grogu. Pedro Pascal's face remains hidden for nearly the entire film, and the film retraces the structures of both Mandalorian Season 1 combined with the plot foundations of the animated Clone Wars movie. 4 to 5 episodes of what should have been Mandalorian Season 4. Disney executives demanded a theatrical pivot mid-production when streaming performance disappointed expectations. Disney doesn't make money on Disney Plus. At least in theaters, Mando and Grogu could generate some profit, maybe. And so, this film was built in a boardroom. Every creative decision traces back to risk mitigation. Remove Pedro Pascal's face so the franchise survives without him. People are tired of seeing him everywhere. Strip out lore and continuity so casual viewers feel welcome. And while you're at it, eliminate any meaningful stakes so nobody walks out upset. Keep it cute and keep it forgettable. Franchise decline normally follows a recognizable arc of peak cultural saturation, a plateau of reliable performance, a gradual slide into diminishing returns, and eventually a reboot that either restarts the cycle or confirms the brand's expiration. The curve is usually gentle and transitions are measured in increments of decades. Star Wars has finally hit the diminishing returns phase, which is dangerously close to reboot. Don't get it twisted, Mandalorian and Grok does expedite the inevitability of the Star Wars recast reboot Disney will eventually force themselves into a corner to do. It will happen at some point, likely in all of our lifetimes. Every revenue vertical that once made Star Wars the most valuable entertainment property on Earth is now contracting at the same time. Box office is in freefall. Merchandise has been declining for years, with Hasbro specifically citing Star Wars as a drag on their earnings. Galaxy's Edge failed to deliver the attendance surge that justified its billion-dollar per park construction cost. The Galactic Star Cruiser is the greatest failure in theme park history. Disney Plus viewership for Star Wars series have dramatically plummeted with each released show. The feedback loop is vicious, and while we can define it, Disney refuses to acknowledge it. Weak content produces weak engagement. Weak engagement produces weak merchandise sales. Weak merchandise sales signals a dying brand, and a dying brand makes the next piece of content not cinema or television even harder to sell. This film ends with no sequel tease and no connection to the larger franchise mythology. Din and Grogu simply fly away. In a confident franchise, that choice would read as self-assured restraint, but in our context here, it is a confession of failure. The people making this movie could offer no compelling reason to come back next time. My friends, a company exists to serve its customers. The entire apparatus exists because a group of people are willing to exchange their money for a product. When the company honors that exchange, the customers return. When it insults them, lectures them, and tells them their dissatisfaction is a character and moral flaw, the customers do something far worse than leave. Leaving would be easy. No, now they stay, and they watch, and they take satisfaction in the collapse. Star Wars in 2026 is proof of concept for a phenomenon with no clean precedent in entertainment economics. The customer base is transformed from a revenue source into an opposition force. The superfans still buy tickets, but they are too few to sustain the future. The normies have reallocated their attention and their money to properties that respect their time. The legacy fans have found a new form of engagement with the franchise, and that is celebrating its destruction. Disney spent a decade manufacturing this outcome. Every dismissed complaint, every public insult, every mediocre streaming series, every staged fan event was a deposit into an account that has now come due. The Mango and Grok opened to the worst numbers in the franchise's history because the audience was never apathetic. They were furious, and now they're the ones that are winning. Until next time, create, innovate, inspire others to do so as well, and for the love of God, cancel Disney Plus.